Today we'll be sharing our best tips for getting the most out of your Genie Plus purchase during your next Disney vacation. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Sunday, June 16th, and you're listening to episode 40, 16 Genie Plus tips for a perfect Disney day. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. And I just want to take a quick second, actually, before I get into today's news. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there.
Happy Father's Day.
We don't have any major plans for today. Our son has a baseball game that we got to get to a little bit later this afternoon. And aside from that, we were going to barbecue some burgers, but the weather doesn't seem to be cooperating. We'll see how it goes.
Play it by ear at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Communicore Hall and Plaza are officially open over at Epcot. This will house festival events, booths, shows, and entertainment, among other uses. Mickey and Friends is also open, where you can meet Mickey, Goofy, and Minnie. Mickey will be the constant, and there will be other characters on a rotational basis. Reminder that the space will house a limited-time Encanto sing-along with Mirabel and Bruno from June 10th through September 6th. It's so great to finally see the space open and the walls finally coming down after nearly 5 years of construction.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to see it like this. Some of the walls were down when we were there last time with the kids, and that was really exciting. But to see it all gone, wow.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I cannot remember what it looked like before the walls.
No, me either.
Like, without looking at photos, it's been so long.
Yeah, in 2014, and then the walls weren't there, but now every other time they have been there, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Reminder that the new Joy Meet and Greet is available at Hollywood Studios to promote the opening of Inside Out 2. It's unknown how long she will meet here, so catch her while you can.
Yeah, we're going to go check out that movie next weekend. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, 100%. The kids are excited for that one. Disney revealed a behind-the-scenes look. I can't take credit for that one. That was Disney. At the previously announced new show coming to Hollywood Studios, The Little Mermaid, A Musical Adventure. Disney said it will feature completely new physical sets, puppets, and live performances, all featuring state-of-the-art technology. Disney said, quote, "We're really blending the line between real and digital in ways we've never done before to completely fill the stage for these show-stopping scenes." Disney Parks blog said they'll be sharing more sneak peeks in the coming months, and will report back as soon as we learn more. June 14th was a big day over at Universal Studios. DreamWorks Land opened at the Universal Studios Florida Park. It features Shrek's Swamp, Trolls Village, which is home to the new Troller Coaster, and Poe's Kung Fu Training Camp. Initial impressions are really positive, and we're looking forward to checking out the new space. The 2 new nighttime shows also kicked off. Cinesational, which is a lagoon show that features lights, fireworks, water fountains, drones, and of course a wonderful score. Initial reactions here are overwhelmingly positive, and we can't wait to see it. The second show is at Hogwarts. Well, the castle, and it's called Hogwarts Always. It's a production show on the castle, and the projections are very, very impressive. State of the art. We are huge Harry Potter fans, and we'll definitely be checking out this one at our earliest opportunity.
Absolutely.
A new DVC lounge is coming to Magic Kingdom. The lounge will replace the space currently occupied by Frontierland Shoot and Arcade. It will be Pioneer themed to fit in with the rest of the land. The arcade will be closing as of June 24th, and construction is likely to begin shortly thereafter. There's no timeline for the opening of the new lounge, so we'll keep our ear to the ground for news on that front as well. If you find yourself in Magic Kingdom before June 23rd, make sure to visit the arcade for the last time. The newly refreshed Country Bear Jamboree will officially open on July 17th. This will feature new songs and refreshed looks and costumes for the bears you're already familiar with. Make sure to check that out on your next trip. And Tiana's Bayou Adventure annual pass holder previews are underway now that the cast member previews have wrapped up. The ride continues to have some struggles and has had shutdowns and temporary closures. So the kinks are essentially being worked out here, as the official opening date is less than 2 weeks away on June 28th.
Very exciting.
Reminder that this attraction will operate a virtual queue in the first few days and then adopt a traditional standby queue. Disney has been vague on how exactly long this will be, so I think it'll depend on demand. But from day one, it will be on Genie Plus. It won't have an individual lightning lane.
I think that's going to have a high demand at first, but then eventually it'll just kind of sink in with the other rides.
Yeah, just normalize. And it'll be on Genie Plus. It's going to be popular for a while for sure. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that's all going to play out.
Absolutely. With that being said, let's get into today's main topic, which is our best tips and strategies for getting the most out of your Genie Plus purchase. So if you've read about Genie Plus on the Disney website, it will tell you that you can expect to make 2 or 3 lightning lane selections during the day, subject to availability. We have always made way more than that.
Yep. Yeah, agreed.
And this is technically true, but it doesn't have to be, like I said. Today, we're going to give you some tried and true tips that we and many others have used in the parks and have had great success in riding way, way more rides and attractions. Like I promise you, way more than 2 or 3.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's kick this off with a little background information. There's really 2 parts to a Genie service: the free Genie service, which is the planning tool inside the My Disney Experience app, and the Genie Plus service that is a paid add-on on top of the cost of your park ticket. Genie is designed to take your interest when it comes to attractions, entertainment, dining, and make recommendations for you on how you should structure your day. While it may seem like a good tool, its main purpose is crowd control, and it may not necessarily affect what you want to do most or the most efficient way for you and your party to tackle the parks. So generally speaking, with some planning, you'll be able to plan a better park itinerary, and that will give you your best bet for you and your party. So the basic Genie service found on the My Disney app is in its core a planning aid.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like it's included in the app. It doesn't cost anything.
No.
It's just a feature that essentially it's meant to give you suggestions, right? You don't have to follow the suggestions in any way. It kind of structures under the My Day tab. But again, it's not necessarily the best use of your time or the best way to shape your day. And we're going to get into that.
Yeah, for sure. Genie Plus is the paid add-on service that grants you the ability to skip the standby queue at select attractions across the 4 parks. Using Genie Plus, you'll make Lightning Lane selections and be given a return time to come and enter the Lightning Lane queue. This doesn't mean it'll be an immediate walk-on. You're probably still going to wait just a little bit, but on average, the Lightning Lane queue has very, very minimal waits. Not every attraction, though, is on Genie Plus. Some less popular attractions and certain shows and entertainment are not included. So in Disneyland, there's quite a few attractions that are excluded from the Genie Plus. We're actually kind of surprised at some of the ones that are excluded. But
that's the biggest difference between, well, one of the biggest differences. There's a few, but is that, between Disneyland and California Adventure, there's quite a few attractions that are not on Genie Plus.
Yeah, and whereas like in World, there's most of them are.
Yeah, most of them.
It's very rare unless they're like the big thrill ones from each park.
Yeah, like the big thrill ones would be individual lightning lanes, and then like lesser popular ones like People Mover, who just flat out don't have a lightning lane.
Because it's just a constant rotating one that they can just keep people moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Genie Plus launched in October of 2021 in Walt Disney World, and about 6 weeks later in December of 2021 over in Disneyland. This replaced the old FastPass system that existed before the pandemic closures. The first time we visited Disney World back in 2014, FastPass Plus was around, but we weren't as knowledgeable back then, and we definitely didn't use it to its full potential. The old FastPass kiosks around the parks were removed, and the signs for the FastPass Plus entrance were replaced and now read Lightning Lane entrance at attractions all over the parks. When Genie Plus was first introduced, it could be purchased in advance, like in advance of your trip, at the cost of $15 per day per guest. Since its launch, not even 3 years ago at this point, it has gone through like a lot of changes and updates. Most notably, you can no longer purchase it ahead of time. You can only purchase it on the day of your visit, beginning at midnight. The prices vary by day and by park, and prices generally vary between $15 to $35 per person per day. Animal Kingdom and Epcot typically are usually the least expensive and will sometimes dip below $20 when it's less busy in the parks.
Yeah, we've seen it at like 18.
Yeah, like $16 to $18
yeah.
range for sure. And then Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are the most expensive and generally don't dip below $20. They're usually around 20, if not a little bit more.
Yep.
There have been other quality of use updates over time, like the ability to modify an existing Lightning Lane, and a banner that shows you when you can book your next Lightning Lane was also added. These are just features that weren't there initially that are there now that really make it a little bit nicer to use.
Modifying your Lightning Lane is really nice.
That was the most significant change and the one I love most, to be honest. Yep. Genie Plus initially was not super well received, given that you have to pay for the service, unlike the previous FastPass system, which was free for all guests. Over time, people have warmed up to it. Still, some people despise it, others really like it. We tend to fall in the camp of people that like the service. While we don't necessarily like the added cost, we do appreciate the ability to skip the standby queue at most attractions, and we've gotten used to using the service, and we feel like we can really maximize it so that our purchase feels justified like most trips.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're going to get into today, giving you our best tips and strategies so that hopefully, if and when you decide to purchase Genie Plus, you'll come out of it feeling as though your purchase was worth it.
So let's kick things off with tip number 1, and that's to get comfortable and familiar with the My Disney Experience app. So we recommend before your trip, you should create a My Disney account. So when you do that, that'll now be your login for your other Disney services like Disney Plus, Disneyland app, Disney Cruise Line app, among others. So unless you've already have a Disney account, it's just going to be the same login.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You should also download the My Disney Experience app to your device and get familiar with how it works. Figure out where the different tabs and menus are located and how you're going to access certain features when you're physically on property. The more comfortable you are using the app, the easier it's going to be for you to manage the ins and outs of your stay when you're actually at Disney. The more you know going in, the more time you have to actually enjoy your vacation versus learning how to use a brand new app you just downloaded while at the parks.
Yeah, 100%. Like the more you know going in, like the smoother it's going to be for you when you're actually in the parks. And like, you don't want to be, learning how to use its features when you're trying to enjoy your vacation. That's not the time, right? You want to actually be boots on the ground, looking around, enjoying the atmosphere, not your nose in your phone trying to figure out how it all works.
And it is a pretty user-friendly app. Yep. You just kind of have to get used to it.
Yeah, honestly, if you're even just remotely techie.
And I'm not techie at all, and I can do it.
You'll be able to pick it up like fairly quickly.
Yeah, so it's gotten to the point where it's not impossible to do your trip without a smartphone, but it's going to be significantly inconvenient to not have a smartphone.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's not impossible, but at this point, you're not doing yourself any favors by not using it.
Yeah. So you'll use the My Disney Experience app to purchase Genie Plus, book lightning lanes, purchase individual lightning lanes, make mobile food orders, find wait times for attractions, wait times for restaurants, view and download your photo pass photos, find different locations like washrooms and water bottle refill stations, bus wait times for your resorts, among many other features. But it literally, it just basically can tell you anything you need to know when it comes to your trip.
Yep.
We actually love this app. We love it. I can't say enough good things about it. We use it pretty much for everything. It's very convenient and has a ton of useful features. So since our first trip using Genie Plus, we've actually gotten very comfortable using the app's features. And this is a huge advantage when it comes to navigating the parks.
Yeah, 100%. And like what I love about the app specifically is that they're always adding new features to make it even better. Like, so for example, recently they added that you could punch in water bottle refill stations and it'll show you where you can go do that. Charging stations to charge your phone. Like they're always adding these little features, these little quality of life features that just make using the app even that much better.
I'm assuming they kind of get comments and stuff from guests and maybe they take into account if they got a lot of requests on one thing and
yeah, 100%. And we know it's not all sunshines and rainbows. No. Like they have IT problems like any other big company, but for the most part, it's really well designed. Number 2, when you should purchase Genie Plus and how you go about making your purchase. So you can purchase Genie Plus on the day of your park visit, beginning at midnight. You purchase Genie Plus for the members of your party that will be using the service, and for the park you'll be visiting. Again, these are tiered by day and by park. You can also purchase Genie Plus for multiple parks if you have park hopper tickets or an annual pass. This will be the most expensive option, and it's typically the same price as Magic Kingdom. To give you a concrete example, say you're visiting Magic Kingdom today on June 16th. You'd be able to make your purchase when the clock strikes midnight. Some people will tell you to do this to make sure that essentially that you're not missing out on it for the day before it sells out. We're here to tell you, okay, that's not necessary. There's really no reason to stay up late or wake yourself up to buy Genie Plus unless you find yourself at Disney on the absolute busiest days of the year, to think like Christmas, Thanksgiving, spring
maybe
break,
the
around
height
Easter.
of summer. Yeah,
exactly.
We have never purchased at midnight
before. No, exactly. It's just, there's really no reason to stay up like late, like we said, or wake yourself up. It's just, it can sell out, but it very rarely happens. When it does happen, it's not usually before 7 a.m. It'll be like later in the morning. And 7 a.m. is when you can make your lightning lane selection or your first one for the day. So it's kind of a moot point at that point, as long as you're buying it before 7 a.m. So long story short, it's a roundabout way of saying is just purchase it when you wake up for the day, right? The big caveat, right, is just to make sure that that's before 7 a.m. so that you're ready to go right at 7, which again is when you can make your first lightning lane selection for the day. In terms of how you purchase Genie Plus, you do this right from the My Disney Experience app. From the main screen, on the app, you'll click the box at the top that reads Rides, Shows, and Lightning Lane Entry. That's like right from the main screen, one of the main boxes. When you click on that, it'll take you to a new page with 2 tabs, the Tip Board tab and the My Day tab. If you're not already on the Tip Board, click on it and you'll see at the very top a banner with a photo of the genie from Aladdin that reads, Purchase for today to save time waiting in line. This will take you to a page that explains what Genie is and what to expect out of your purchase, essentially. Scroll down to the bottom and click the purple button that says Get Genie Plus Service. From here, it'll show you today's date and 5 options, multiple parks, and then each of the 4 parks individually, with the price for the day for each of these options. Once you make your selection, you'll click Continue, confirm your party, and be prompted to make your purchase from there. Then once you refresh your tip board, it'll show that you have Genie Plus for the day, and you'll be able to make your first selection right when the clock strikes 7. It sounds complicated, right? But as soon as you click that first banner, it's super user-friendly from there. You just follow the prompts, essentially. It's not a bad idea to go through these steps before your trip, and you can go all the way to the screen that asks you to confirm your party, which you won't be able to until your actual ticket start date. But again, like we said in our previous point, it's good to be familiar with the app before you go.
Absolutely. Number 3, master the tip board. So like we said, under the rides, shows, and lightning lane entry box, you're going to find the tip board tab. Aside from purchasing Genie Plus first thing in the morning, this is where the action happens. This is where we are working before 7 a.m. to get it all ready. So this is where you're going to make your lightning lane selections, see which lightning lanes are available and their next available return time. It'll be where you modify or cancel selections if necessary, but we're going to go deeper into that shortly. It also shows you the wait times for the attractions and the shows in the parks that you're in as well. Another handy feature is there's a toggle near the top of the page that reads Show Only Disney Genie Plus Lightning Lanes, so that not all the shows and attractions are displayed, just the ones that are lightning lanes. It can make it very useful.
Yeah, that's one thing that they added again. It wasn't there
true.
Initially. They added it later, and it's a nice feature as well because, again, there's a lot going on that screen until you pin attractions to the top. So if you can toggle that, it just reduces the amount of stuff that you're seeing.
Absolutely.
It just organizes the screen a little bit nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. Another handy feature is that there's 2 sub-tabs here, attractions and shows, again, which is the default and where you're going to make your selections, but there's a second tab for dining. Here, you're going to be able to see the wait times at select table service restaurants or start mobile food orders as well.
Again, this is another one of those added after the fact that wasn't there initially, but like the ability to see estimated wait times for table service restaurants, that was added semi-recently. And again, super, super handy.
You never know when you might get lucky and could get in right away.
Yep, exactly.
So basically, this is where the magic happens. If you're going to get familiar with any section of the app, this should be it. You can also check back periodically in the days and weeks leading up to your trip to see the trends in the parks of which lightning lanes are going to book up first and how quickly the return times dip later in the day. This fluctuates based on the parks and the crowd levels, but it's going to give you a really good baseline.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. We like to do this and we have a pretty good idea about it now because we tend to go at similar times.
We do, yeah.
Throughout the year.
Yeah.
But it's still fun to look at wait times, especially in the weeks leading up.
And if we know somebody who's like at the parks, we usually like check for them, be like, I wonder 100%. What their day's like today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we live vicariously through them, like dreaming about our next one. Anyways, number 4 is a pro tip that will definitely give you a competitive edge when it comes to booking your first lightning lane in the morning and for the rest of your day after that. And that's to make sure that you're pinning the next attraction you want to book at the top of your tip board. Okay, here's what we're talking about and how you do that. Before 7 a.m. hits, you'll tap on My Day. So this is the tab beside your tip board. Here you'll see a box that reads, Start here to plan your day, with a button that says Get Started Now. Once you click on that, you'll be asked to choose some interest when it comes to attractions, dining, and entertainment. When you're selecting the attractions you are interested in, you want to select only 1 or 2 attractions, and those should be the ones that you're looking to book first for the day. The reason you want to do this is that they will then be pinned to the very top of your tip board, meaning when you're refreshing your screen in the seconds leading up to 7 a.m., these attractions will be the very first at the top, which will save you from having to scroll down and find it alphabetically, wasting precious seconds. You might ask, is this necessary?
Yes.
And the answer is 100% yes. Okay, seconds can make the difference between a return time within the first couple hours of park open versus well into the afternoon or evening. Once your selection is made, pinning the attraction is not final. You'll be able to go edit this and pin the next attractions or attractions that you want to book. Once you've made your first selection from the tip board, you'll see a button marked Edit Selections. When you click on that, you'll be able to uncheck the attraction you already booked and check the next 1 or 2 attractions that you'd like to book. Now, when you refresh your tip board, you'll see the new attractions pinned to the top, and so on and so forth for the rest of your day, essentially. So we'll give you a concrete example here. So say you're going to Hollywood Studios, you purchase Genie Plus, and you set up your day and select Slinky Dog Dash, which is then pinned to the top of your tip board. You refresh and get a good return time, say 10 o'clock. You'll then go into your tip board, edit selections, and uncheck Slinky Dog Dash, and then select Tower of Terror. When you scan into Slinky Dog, or when 2 hours has lapsed, you can then make your next selection, you refresh and select your next lightning lane, so Tower of Terror, and so on as the day goes on, right? Having the ability to pin those attractions to the top is super helpful when you're trying to quickly book your next lightning lane, okay? It gets a little less crucial as you get deeper into the day and like you've, ridden most of the ones that you want to ride, but it's still helpful regardless at any point.
It is a very helpful tip. Like I'm telling you, Magic Kingdom has a lot of attractions that appear on that list, so you will be scrolling quite a bit just to try, and then you might like scroll past it just because you're not even really fully paying attention.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example. Say Peter Pan, Jungle Cruise tend to be the ones that are super popular. If you don't do that, you're going to have to scroll all the way to J or P to find it, right?
Down there.
Versus if you pin it at the top, as soon as you refresh, it's already waiting there for you at the top, and you have to be quick. Tap in as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Number 5 is to know and understand the 120-minute rule. We have more tips to get to, but to really put those in context and to really get the most out of your Genie Plus purchase, you need to understand the 120-minute rule. It's made to be more complicated than it is, so let's break it down and keep it as simple as possible. When using Genie Plus, you can only pick your next lightning lane when one of two things have happened. One, you've scanned into your next lightning lane, or two, 120 minutes has lapsed, whichever occurs first. This is true for most of the day except for at the very start of the day. So like we said, you're going to make your first selection at 7 a.m. Now, you would think that you'd be able to make your next selection at 9 a.m. because that's 2 hours from 7 a.m. But that's actually not the case. The 120-minute clock doesn't start until park open. So not the rope drop park open,
right.
The official park open for all guests.
Yeah, exactly. So if the park opens at 9... 11 o'clock, right? Would be 120 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 120 minutes starts at park open, and then the rule holds true for the rest of the day thereafter. Very important though, like we said, the 120 rule doesn't apply if you scanned into your lightning lane that had a return time within the 2 hours of your last selection. An example of this is, let's say I made a selection for Slinky Dog Dash at 7 a.m. and I got a return time of 9:30. Awesome. That's a really great start to your day. So now as soon as I scan into Slinky Dog, I can make my next selection. I don't have to wait for the 2 hours because I've already used my initial first selection.
Agreed. Exactly.
So your tip board will also tell you when you can make your selection. That's true. At the top, it's going to say you can book in this much time.
Yeah,
or
it'll give you
it's
time.
Going to say you can book now. It'll literally say book now.
It'll say now. Exactly. Yeah.
So after you make your first selection of the day, it's going to give you a time displaying when you can make your next one, like I said. And when it's time, it's going to just say, it's the word now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it says. Again, that's like I was saying earlier. I think
it sounds complicated. It's not.
No, exactly. Yeah. And like that now feature or the time, again, is another new feature that they added after the fact. And it's easier to just kind of keep track of that because as soon as you open it, it'll tell you if you're eligible.
120 minutes, remember, never starts until park open.
Yeah, exactly.
For everybody.
So tip number 6 is closely related, and that's to set an alarm a couple of minutes before you can make your next selection. So let's keep the earlier example, the one that Lucy just said. And we got a Slinky Dog Dash first thing in the morning. Once we scanned in there at 9:30, we make another selection for Tower of Terror at 1 p.m., say.
Yep.
120 minutes later would bring us to 11:30. Then we'd be able to make the next selection. It's easy to forget this when you're riding other attractions, shows, entertainment, or grabbing food. So it's best practice to set yourself an alarm for something, say like 11:28, to remind yourself to pull out your phone and get ready to make your next selection. Okay, we're guilty of this.
It's happened to us a lot.
Yeah, 100%. We've been going about our day and didn't set an alarm and promptly forgot that we were eligible to make our next selection. Yeah. Not the best feeling, right? So it's definitely a good idea to mitigate this problem with a little bit of pre-planning.
Yeah, I find with the kids especially, we can get easily distracted with everything
100%.
Going on, and then we always forget. So yeah, definitely alarms. Awesome way to do it.
Agreed.
Number 7 is to make your next selection immediately, like as soon as you can, even if it's not necessarily the time or the attraction you're actually looking for. And this is because you want to restart that 120-minute clock right away. The longer you spend refreshing before making a selection, the further out your following start time is going to be. So by selecting an attraction and return time immediately, regardless of what it is, you're going to start that clock right away. And then if you're happy with the time and the attraction, great. Then you can just keep moving on, keep walking, don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
But if not, you're going to go into your selection and you're going to select modify. From there, you can refresh that screen for a better return time for the attraction that you did end up choosing or for an entirely different attraction. That's the beauty about this modify, is that you're not stuck with that one attraction.
Agreed.
And changing times. You can change the time and the attraction.
Yep, agreed.
Love that. It's probably one of the best features they've put out there.
Agreed.
So when you do that, it doesn't reset your 120-minute clock. So even if you're going to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes refreshing for a better time, which we have been guilty of, we've spent a lot of time sometimes, and you're about to snag that one, just remember, it keeps your original 120 start time from when you made that initial selection. Again, you're putting time on your side here, and over the course of your day, that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And to build on what Lucy said, that's number 8, and it's closely related, and that's don't settle, right? So keep refreshing for a better return time.
True.
So what we mean by that, and what we alluded to in the last point, is go into the selection you made, select modify, and refresh for a better time by pulling down on your screen. When you see a better time pop up, click it as quickly as possible. Okay, like we're talking fast fingers here.
Oh, yeah, you got to be on the ball.
And once you load into the screen to confirm, then it's yours. Caveat here is that you're not the only people in the park attempting to do this, so it can be challenging to click on it before someone else does. Sometimes that will happen, is that essentially before you get to the confirmation screen, you'll get a notification that the time has changed and it's no longer available, which is disappointing, right? But don't despair, keep trying, and you'll almost certainly be able to get an earlier time. You can do this with every single lightning lane selection of the day, including your first one. No joke. We've had incredible success doing this. We were talking about this just last month when we were there on our most recent trip with the kids. We literally can't remember a time when we weren't able to refresh for at least a slightly better time, like pretty much since the implementation of Genie Plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So remember, you won't reset your clock when you modify, so you really have nothing to lose. It's literally all gain, and you just have to have the patience essentially to refresh continuously, and almost always a better time will pop up. Now, we're not suggesting that you spend your entire day with your nose buried in your phone. That's not what we're saying at all. But even if you spend just a few minutes refreshing here and there, you're more than likely going to be able to snag a better time. We like to sit down or mosey, or even if we're waiting in the queue for another attraction or show, we'll refresh and we're always able to find something better. At the start of the episode, when we said you'd be able to snag many more lightning lanes than just the 2 or 3 that Disney kind of mentions, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? So if you settle for the next available time when you book and don't change it, yes, okay, you'll almost certainly get only a couple to a handful of selections in the day. If you refresh for a better time, you'll get like way more in, guaranteed. We've tried this at different times of year, varying degrees of crowd levels, and again, we've always found success. And we're not talking if it's 2 or 3 that Disney suggests, we're talking like if you're at Magic Kingdom that has a bunch of available lightning lanes or a bunch of attractions on Genie Plus rather, we're talking like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like you can do them all essentially.
We are talking like we're picking a lightning lane because we have just done all the heavy hitters and we feel bad that we didn't pick a lightning lane for It's a Small World. So we just choose one and just walk on in 5 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. So, and we're going to get into this later in the episode when we talk about like which ones you should prioritize. But if you are able to get like Peter Pan's Flight, Jungle Cruise, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Space Mountain, Haunted Mansion, you could get those like in the earlier portion of the day by refreshing. Then the less popular ones like It's a Small World, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Ariel's Grotto, like all of those rides will have very minimal waits, and the return time for lightning lanes is going to be basically now or close to it for the rest of the day. So
Absolutely.
You can, even if it has like a 15-20 minute wait, you can snag a lightning lane and then ride it.
So number 9 is to use multiple people to up your chances of snagging a better return time. So like we said, if you want a better return time, refresh. It's all about the refreshing. If you have more than one person doing this at the same time, this is going to give you a much better chance of getting a better return time. As long as you are all linked to each other's accounts, you're going to be able to make and alter lightning lanes for the others in your party. Oliver and I always do this. Once we've made our selection, if we want a better time, we'll both enter into the modify screen and refresh for a better time. So it's basically even at this point, and we've kind of made it into a fun little competition.
Yeah,
Did you snag that one? Oh, I was trying to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see the same times pop up, like I said, and then we're going to try and snag it first. Sometimes we both are not actually able to get it. It gets taken just before either of us are able to grab it. But again, inevitably, one of us is always successful in snagging that better time. I've actually been able to get us some really, really good times early morning after refreshing for a bit on our last trip, which set up our morning really nicely because it actually kind of started a little disappointing our initial times.
Yeah, like was it Hollywood Studios?
Yeah,
100%.
We were both kind of disappointed.
Our Slinky Dog had dipped like later into the morning. No, like what we got at 10 o'clock after a while, but it was like 1 p.m. or something.
That's right.
And you refreshed and you were able to get something in the morning. Which
we were just kind of lingering. There was nothing for us to do yet.
Yeah.
I just kept hitting refresh. It just takes some patience. It takes a lot of patience actually.
Yeah, 100%. But we did it. We refreshed maybe for like 5-10 minutes while we were waiting for the bus anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were able to get it.
So we will caveat this by saying that when we have our kids with us, we're not always able to do this because one of us is basically keeping an eye on our kids to make sure that they don't run off on us. So sometimes one of us is only trying to get the better times. But when possible, 2 is better than 1. So why not?
Agreed, 100%. Number 10 is never to cancel a lightning lane unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay, so the reason we say this is that it's going to disrupt your strategy and the timing of your 120-minute rule. Don't forget that you can always modify your lightning lane. So if you know you won't make it in time because you're park hopping from another park or you're coming back from a dining reservation that took longer than expected, you can modify your selection to a different attraction or a later time. Mm-hmm. Let's say you made a lightning lane selection for early afternoon at Test Track at Epcot, but you had gone out of the parks for lunch at Beaches and Cream at the Beach Club Resort. You spent a little too long there enjoying a delicious sundae, and you know there's no chance you're going to get back in time to make that lightning lane. Well, you're better off modifying than canceling, hands down. Note that if you need to cancel because you're deciding to leave for the day or something similar, you certainly can cancel or let it lapse. You don't really have to worry about it at that point. But if you intend on staying in the park or hopping to another park and continuing to make selections, you're definitely better off modifying.
Yes. Number 11, ever wondered what happens when an attraction you have a lightning lane for is temporarily closed during your return time? Good news, you don't have to outright lose your lightning lane. So Disney actually uses a really handy system to make up for the rides being closed with a multiple experience pass, also known as experience redemptions. If you've been to Disney, you know, and if not, you're going to find out when you're there, it's not uncommon for attractions to temporarily close. Outdoor attractions are usually going to be closed during inclement weather, and more broadly, ride breakdowns are a very common occurrence.
Yep, agreed.
For the most part, these generally don't last too terribly long. Either the attraction is going to go back up or the weather is going to improve. It is Florida. The weather lasts for maybe 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But if we weren't able to ride the attraction during the time it was closed and you had a lightning lane, you'll see that your lightning lane becomes an experience redemption on your My Disney Experience app. The beauty of this pass is that it actually allows you to return to select attractions, and it doesn't have a time constraint, meaning you can use it from the time it's granted to park close. But be mindful, it won't carry to the next day or to another park. And when you click on the pass, it's going to show you the attractions that are included and excluded. So typically speaking, it'll give you access to the attractions of a similar tier or lower. So meaning if you had a lightning lane for Pirates of the Caribbean and it was down, your experience redemption won't include rides like Peter Pan or Jungle Cruise because they are at a higher tier.
Yeah, exactly.
So this happens automatically. You don't have to do anything for this to occur in your app. The beauty of it as well is that it allows you to make another lightning lane selection right away, meaning you don't have to wait for the ride to come back up or to scan into another ride with your experience redemption. You can keep that redemption and then make another selection right away. If you prefer to not wait for the attraction to come back up, you can also use it to ride any of the other attractions that are on that list. It's actually a really good system.
Yep.
Another pro tip is, let's say you had already used a lightning lane for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and you received an experience redemption for Haunted Mansion because it was down, but you absolutely love Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and you want to ride it again. You can actually use that experience redemption for Haunted Mansion at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and then book Haunted Mansion again. It's actually really fun that way.
Yep.
So you're going to be able to do that since you never scanned into Haunted Mansion. So long story short, Disney doesn't leave you hanging when your ride goes down during your return time window, which is a really nice in-app feature that we've been able to capitalize on many times over the last couple of years.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because the first time it happened to us, we didn't know what it was.
Like, what's going on?
So we actually had to ask a cast member to be like, hey, what's this? And then they kind of explained it to us and we're like, oh, light bulb.
Sometimes we've had two in our queue because it just so happens that two rides have gone down.
100%. So yeah,
they're
100%.
kind of nice to have. Honestly, sometimes if you're like, oh, okay, that's all right.
It's like depending on how your day's going, it can be a gimme, right?
If it's in
like
the
that
afternoon,
Big Thunder, that Big Thunder example is perfect because 100%. If you have a ride that you already use your lightning lane on and you can't rebook and it has a long wait, well, you can go ride it again. And then, like again, if the one you're trying to pick is easy to get, like Pirates of the Caribbean, which usually has, availability late into the day, then just pick it again and kind of go from there.
Everybody wins.
Yep. Number 12, stacking. So you may be familiar with this term, or I've heard like people or influencers mention it on social media. It can seem convoluted, but in reality, it's quite simple. Stacking lightning lanes is the simple act of holding more than one lightning lane at once. Now, you can only make one selection at a time, 2 hours apart, or as soon as you scan into your next attraction. We covered that. But let's say you make your first selection at 7 and you pick Peter Pan's Flight. Your return time is 2 p.m. The parks open at 9, so you'd be able to make your next selection 120 minutes after park open. So that's 11 o'clock. Let's say at 11 o'clock, you select Big Thunder Mountain Railroad for 5 p.m. Now you know you won't make it to the park until 4 p.m. because you're doing some shopping at Disney Springs. So you modify your initial Peter Pan's Flight to 7 p.m. Then another 120 minutes passes, and now you're at 1 p.m. You select Space Mountain for 7:30. You could be holding 3 or more lightning lanes at a time and ride them all in the afternoon into the evening when you enter the park later. Now, that's not the only use case for stacking, but it's a good example of how you could utilize that to your advantage depending on your overall strategy or what you have planned for the day.
Yep.
You could also stack lightning lanes in another park you plan on hopping to in the afternoon, or just stack a couple while you're enjoying other experiences in the parks. Basically, every time 120 minutes has passed, you can make your next selection. And if your return time is earlier than you'd like, you can always modify that for a later return time. We generally don't use this tactic too often because we're usually early risers and we're much more likely to leave a park early than to arrive later.
So true.
But it's something to keep in mind depending on what you have planned, right? We've rope dropped a park, used a couple of lightning lanes, then exited the park for a meal or to check out a resort or whatnot. And then we've returned in the afternoon with a couple of lightning lanes stacked and ready to go. There's a lot of flexibility here. Once you understand how to do this, it's really quite simple and you can put Genie Plus to work for you.
Absolutely. Number 13 is a lesser known fact that can save you time on the front end and give you more flexibility on the back end. So when you book a lightning lane, you're going to get a 1 hour return time window, something like 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. or 10:30 to 11:30. So you scan your magic band or ticket during this 1 hour time period. The touch point will glow green and you're good to go. But in practice, you can actually scan in 5 minutes before and 15 minutes after your 1 hour return time. So for example, if your lightning lane is 1 to 2 p.m., in practice, you can actually scan in beginning at 12:55 p.m. and then all the way through to 2:15 p.m. It's a good little trick there. Yeah. So if we're ready to go, we like to scan in 5 minutes early because that's actually going to allow us to pick our next selection a little bit earlier. It's kind of a nice feature. Yep. And if you're running behind, you have that additional peace of mind that even if you're a little bit late, you'll still be able to make your lightning lane. So another thing to keep in mind here is if you're running late for whatever reason, your dining reservation ran long, you got stuck on another ride, just be kind and patient and explain what happened to the cast members at the front of the attraction. They will almost certainly let you in the lightning lane queue, even if you were behind that 15-minute grace period. But the 5 minutes before is what it is. You can try and scan in 6 minutes before, it's going to glow blue and you're not going to be able to enter the lightning lane queue until at least 5 minutes out.
Yeah, 100%. It's a hard 5 minutes.
It is what it is, yeah.
100%. And I think like the reason that this was probably implemented by Disney is that, and again, I'm just speculating here, but it's like people's watches are a little bit off sometimes, right?
Sure.
So if your clock is like 2 minutes early, you're not going to get in an argument with the cast members at the front of the attraction. Like,
yeah. And I also feel like too, it just makes people a little extra 5 minutes early, but like makes them happy. Oh, okay, great. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's a small thing. Yep. Number 14, which rides should you book first and prioritize after? So lightning lanes are not all created equal, and we can all agree that some are wildly more popular than others, right? The less popular attractions will have return times that will be widely available throughout the day, and they should not be prioritized in any way. Think attractions like It's a Small World, Star Tours, Living with the Land, among many, many others. Yep. Other attractions that are very popular will book up sometimes within seconds or minutes of 7 a.m., and these are the ones that you should be looking to book first. Because once return times are booked up for the day, it can be very, very challenging to get a lightning lane at all for the rest of the day. Here's a pro tip that will really maximize your purchase. Say you selected Jungle Cruise first thing and got a decent return time, let's say 10 a.m. When you scan into Jungle Cruise, you see that return times for Peter Pan are currently sitting around 8 p.m. Meanwhile, something like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad has a return time 20 minutes from now. It can be tempting to book Big Thunder, but the problem with that is Big Thunder's lightning lanes will hang around pretty much all day, except at the absolute busiest times of the year. If you select Peter Pan for 8 p.m., that gets your foot in the door and your 120-minute clock ticking. If you don't select it now, you may miss your chance altogether for the rest of the day. Say you do choose Peter Pan for 8 p.m. From there, you can refresh for a better time, and almost certainly you'll get a better time. When you're successful at that, once you ride Peter Pan or 120 minutes has lapsed, you can then book your next attraction. Again, attractions like Big Thunder, Haunted Mansion will still have availability well into the afternoon and evening. There's definitely strategy involved here, and the more prepared you are, the more attractions you'll get to ride, and the more likely you are essentially to feel good about your purchase and like everything you got done in a day.
Absolutely. So with that said, let's get into our recommendations by park. In Magic Kingdom, the current top Genie Plus selections that will book up first and therefore should be the ones you book first are Peter Pan and Jungle Cruise. These are fairly close in terms of popularity and should be considered for your first pick. So very soon, as of June 28th, Tiana's Bayou Adventure will be added to Genie Plus, and for the foreseeable future, we'd expect this one to book up very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
So after June 28th, that would most likely be a really good candidate for one of your first picks of the day. Space Mountain is also popular, but not nearly as much as the others that we've mentioned before. But it is more popular than what we would call the mid-tier priority attractions such as Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is crazy because that's my favorite one, Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. The other attractions in the park consistently have availability throughout the day and into the evening. So reminder that Tron and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train are not on Genie Plus. These are individual lightning lanes, so they're an extra purchase on top of your Genie Plus purchase.
Yes, exactly. In Hollywood Studios, the top Genie Plus attraction by far, and it's not even close, is Slinky Dog Dash Day. So this should 100% be your first pick of the day. Return times will dip into the evening hours within seconds of 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay. The next priorities should be Tower of Terror, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Toy Story Midway Mania.
Yeah.
The most popular out of those, I'd say, is Tower of Terror, but the return times for Tower of Terror, Smuggler's Run, and Mickey and Minnie's tend to follow each other pretty closely throughout
agree.
the day.
Yep.
So
depends on the time of year you're there.
Exactly. And a reminder that Rise of the Resistance is the individual lightning lane in this park.
Absolutely. So at Epcot, the top Genie Plus attraction is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. So that's going to be the first to book up consistently every single time.
Yep.
The next two after that are Frozen and Test Track. And then below that is probably Soarin', Mission Space, and the others are fairly easy to get throughout the day and into the evening. So reminder that the individual lightning lane here is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, and this one currently does not have a standby queue, just the virtual queue.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
Same with Tron, yeah.
And like all things being equal, I would say that Frozen is like slightly more popular than Test Track. We find that we have a harder time getting Frozen than Test Track. But again, Test Track is right up there in the top three, absolutely.
I agree.
And finally, at Animal Kingdom, the top attractions are Navi River Journey and Kilimanjaro Safaris. And below that, Expedition Everest, Dinosaur, and Kali River Rapids. These and the other attractions are easy to get the majority of the time. The individual lightning lane in this park is Flight of Passage, which is wildly popular and always has a really, really long wait. Okay?
It does, yes.
So a couple of important points here. The return times for various attractions will dip later and book up faster when the parks are busy. This stands to reason, right? The more people that are at Walt Disney World, the more people purchase Genie Plus, and then therefore the more people are booking lightning lanes and the less times there are to go around. This will also be when Genie Plus is the most expensive when the parks are the most crowded, right? So think important holidays like Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, as well as breaks from school, right? So think spring break.
Yeah, they're not going to charge you less during the busy
exactly,
times
right. And
ever.
Exactly. So when it's the most expensive is when you most want it, and you can really benefit from it because the lines will be longer. So something to keep in mind if you're visiting during those really busy times.
Absolutely. Number 15, which parks is it the most useful in? So in our opinion, Genie Plus is most useful and helpful in Magic Kingdom. For the sheer amount of attractions that are on Genie Plus in Magic Kingdom and the fact that they can sometimes get very long waits, you can certainly get a lot out of your purchase and save yourself significant time versus waiting in those standby queues.
Agreed, yep.
This is especially true during, obviously, the busy times.
Agreed.
At Hollywood Studios, there are less attractions in the park, and that means less attractions on Genie Plus when compared to Magic Kingdom, but it does have several heavy hitters that attract long wait times, and it's also very useful in this park to cut down your time waiting in line, again, even more so than when the parks are crowded.
Yep.
Epcot and Animal Kingdom are not as necessary, and here's why. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Frozen, and Test Track get long waits and are by far the most popular Genie Plus lightning lanes, like we said. But if you arrive early in the morning and are able to do these attractions early in the day, you can actually do other attractions in the parks with relatively low waits. So you can certainly have a good day without a lot of waiting in line in Epcot, even without Genie Plus. Now, during busier times, even less popular attractions such as Soarin' can get waits of up to 15 minutes or more. So if you know the parks will be busy, it can definitely be worth it. But during moderately to less crowded days, you can definitely go without.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Like most times we will do Genie Plus at Epcot, but not every time.
No, not every time. Yeah. With the kids, we usually will.
Yeah.
And in our opinion, it's not necessarily the vast majority of the time in Animal Kingdom. There is really only a handful of attractions on Genie Plus and in this park in general. So if you're arriving early in the morning, you can do Navi River Journey and Kilimanjaro Safaris with lower wait times and even extend that to Expedition Everest and Dinosaur. During the moderately busy and less crowded times, it's quite honestly a waste of money in our opinion.
Yep.
Wait times are generally very, very manageable and it's just not worth it. Even during busier times, it's still manageable with a good park strategy. When it's very crowded, such as Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's going to be good to consider because you're going to have long wait times everywhere. So it can save you time. But outside of that, save your money and you can actually put it to better use elsewhere.
Yeah, 100%. A perfect example of that is the first time we went to the parks post-pandemic. It was September and the parks were like super quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Genie Plus for Animal Kingdom and we were literally... like there was no waits anywhere. Yeah. So, and like the return times were like immediate. So there was like a 5-minute wait for Expedition Everest and the return time was now. So it's just, we were using it because we had it, but we really, really didn't need it. So again, depending on how busy the parks are, it's really, really not worth it.
Yep, I agree.
And number 16, a last bonus tip we'll call it that we'll throw in, and it's not really a Genie Plus tip, but something you should definitely do, is in the parks, bring with you a battery pack of some kind. So you're going to be on your phone booking lightning lanes, refreshing your screen a lot during the day. It'll chew right through your phone battery. Being able to recharge it at some point during the day without having to stop at an outlet will be very, very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We never go into the parks without ours. We have two, one each, and they're a necessity in our opinion.
One of us would be heading back to the resort to get it. I think if we forgot it.
Oh, 100%,
that's how much
because one of our phones would die, if not both.
That's how much we use them.
Yeah, agreed. So with all that said, that was a lot. We know that Genie Plus can seem intimidating, and we won't lie, there is a learning curve that can seem daunting. What I will say though is that if you are preparing, meaning you're getting familiar with the My Disney Experience app, you're listening to podcasts like this one and others and watching YouTube videos, you're taking the steps to set yourself up for success. So we speak from experience. The first time we used Genie Plus, we were nervous, right? But within a day or two, we had the hang of it. And by the end of our first trip using it, we were proficient. So you're getting ready, you're doing the research, you're spending the time to learn the ins and outs. So rest assured, it's not as bad as it seems, right? When you're in the park and you start using it, you'll see that it's actually pretty user friendly. And if you're using even just some of the tips we talked about today, you'll get your money's worth out of it for sure.
Absolutely. So thank you for talking Genie Plus with us today. Like we said, Genie Plus can seem daunting, but mastering it can definitely make your trip smoother.
Agreed, 100%.
Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. It also increases our reach so we can help more people have great vacations.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at letsgo.2disney, as well as our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney. Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.